Welcome back to No Longer Tossed, where we talk about the ideas that we need to know in order to grow in Christ and also to no longer be tossed about by the winds and the waves of deceptive ideas. Today, we're going to talk about truth. And it's really important for us to start out this channel by talking about truth, because if we don't get that down, we can't get anything else down. So, when we talk about truth these days, you'll kind of normally hear about two kinds. First kind is objective or absolute truth. And these truths are outside of you. They don't change as you change. They are not made by you, but are perceived or recognized by you. And they're supposed to be able to be recognized by everybody. It doesn't just depend on you. We all should be able to observe them. And then you might hear about subjective truths, and those are based on your experiences and preferences, and they change as you change, and they really can be said to be your truth because they're made by you. Now, let's think about these for a second. Subjective truths, you may claim it to be your truth, but is that actually a stable way to build your life? That whatever whim or preference that you have, you can put that forth and that's your truth, but we can't build a stable society on that. We can only function together when we have objective truths that we can all operate on. And then, as far as actually adjudicating, is something actually true? Like what does it mean for something to really be true? There's generally three theories about that. The first is the coherence theory of truth. And that's when you have one belief and it's consistent with another belief and another and another. And you essentially have a whole web of beliefs that are all consistent with one another. And when you have this consistency, there is truth. Now, a good illustration of this, but also that shows why this isn't a good theory to adopt as the foundation for truth, is you get the coherence theory in works of fiction, reading a book, watching a movie. You have a whole bunch of ideas that all fit together well. And, you have a discernible world essentially. But does it match with a real one? And the answer is no. And so while coherence would be a good test to see if something is true, like if it doesn't fit with anything else, then it probably doesn't match with the real world. It wouldn't be true. And then the second theory of truth is the pragmatic theory of truth. Essentially, truth is whatever works or produces desirable outcomes. Now, again, let's think about this. Something is going to work until it doesn't. There's a lot of gamblers out there that, they have their system and they're like, whatever works, at the moment, I just keep going with that and it's going to work for me. Well, then why is there so much gambling debt? There's something called the gambler's fallacy. The pragmatic theory isn't reliable either. Now, again, it would be a good test for whether something is true, because something that is true should actually work, and it would work because it actually matches with the real world. And then the last theory of truth is the correspondence theory of truth. And that says truth is whatever corresponds to reality. It's something outside of us. It matches very well with the absolute truth idea. And so, you look out at the real world, and if something actually corresponds to that reality that we all have to operate in, then it would be true. And that seems to be the most reliable one. Like, we all have to look out at the world and go, does this match? Right now I'm sitting on a chair. And so if it is actually the case that I'm sitting on a chair, it would be true. And if I'm sitting on, say, a table instead, then the statement, I'm sitting on a chair, would not correspond to reality. It would be false. We all live our lives in this way. If we see a bus coming at us, does it help us at all to go, does this cohere with the rest of my beliefs? No, the reality is there's a bus coming at you. And so if there is a bus coming at you, you should move out of the way. We all operate in this way. So absolute truth and the coherence model, or the correspondence model, definitely seem to be the most reliable. Now, in the next video, we will examine the Christian conception of truth and see if the Bible comes to the same conclusions. So, hope you enjoyed this video. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.